Hello and welcome back to another episode of Tyler Talk, the only place to get your sports news wherever you are. I'm Tyler Brown and let's get on with today's show. But first up, make sure that you like, subscribe and hit the bell to get notifications. I sorted that issue out with YouTube the other day, and don't forget to follow me on Instagram. That is TYB_talk. Yes, TYB_talk. Now, we know COVID-19 has affected a lot of what we do in daily life, and the NFL draft is no different. Yes, with NFL scouts not being able to visit campuses and games this year, it's been really difficult to get a proper spec on who the next NFL stars are. But fortunately, due to a lot of these players being veterans of their teams and having a lot of tape, we're able to finally decide on who will be picked in the NFL draft. So what we're going to do, I'm going to go through the first 10 teams as of today. I'm not going to decide on trades or anything like that. I'm going to go based on who is picking where today in the top 10, who they'll pick and why. So first up is the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I feel like it's just, I think it's a very simple pick here. It has to be Clemson QB Trevor Lawrence. I mean, he is probably, for me, one of the best college quarterbacks I've seen in a long while. I mean, he is something special. He's got an incredible arm. He can run the ball really well as well. He's a perfect defense reader, and he's just what the Jacksonville Jaguars need. I've seen a few people say that Zach Wilson is QB number one this year, but it's really just a one man race in this one. So that is who the Jacksonville Jaguars will pick 100% this year. Next is New York Jets, and they will go for QB number 2, Zach Wilson out of BYU. I wish I saw more BYU football this year because, this guy is everything you need in a QB nowadays. Obviously, with the NFL being, having quarterbacks who can also throw and run with the ball and maybe even catch, Zach Wilson is a player who makes Sundays better. And if New York Jets are going to want to be up there in the Super Bowl conversation, they need a QB just like this. And he is the perfect candidate for them. And number 3, I've got for Miami, the Heisman Trophy winner, Alabama wide receiver Lavonte Smith. It's a case of who do you give the tools to your QB. There's no point drafting a quarterback because you've got Tua, who isn't a finished product, but he can get better if you give him the right weapons. And who's better than the Heisman Trophy winner? I mean, right? So it's a clear, obvious choice. Devontae Smith, Alabama, will go to Miami. And number 4, Atlanta is in a salary cap hell at the moment, and Matt Ryan is not going to be their starting QB forever. So you need to start looking for the future. And with Arthur Smith and the new staff to invest in their future, they need a quarterback that can bide his time on the bench, and then when his time comes, break through and get the wins. So that's why I've picked Ohio State QB Justin Fields. This player is someone who, as an old Ohio State fan, is a player I've been watching for a while. He is a player that you can always count on to be a team leader in difficult situations. And Ohio State is full of difficult situations, and with them going all the way to the national championship this year, the person you pick is the person you led them to that, and that is Justin Fields. So yeah, that's my pick for number 4. Number 5, Cincinnati Bengals. You just got Joe Burrow. He's injured now, so you need to protect him. You need linemen, and I've picked Oregon offensive tackle Penei Sewell. He is easily one of the best offensive linemen in the country. I think him and Jonah Williams on that line is going to be like the best partnership for Joe Burrows ever. In terms of protecting your assets, you get a better asset to do that. So I think that's the only choice for the Cincinnati Bengals to go with an offensive tackle this year, and what a player they will get if they do pick him. Philadelphia Eagles. There are two types of teams in the NFL. Those who have a franchise quarterback and those who are looking for one. And, obviously, Jalen Hurts is obviously is looking to be their new starting quarterback with the Carson Wentz trade. But is Jalen Hurts a finished product? I don't think I've seen enough of him to think that he is. So I think it's always good to have a decent backup for a competition, and that's why I've gone with North Dakota QB Trey Lance. There is a risk, given where he played, in college. I think it's nearly attempted 318 passes and 17 starts. But with his size and arm talent, it's he could change the game in Philadelphia a little bit, and I think he will prove to be a good contestant for that starting job against Jalen Hurts. So that'll be interesting to see what they do, but I do think they will go for a QB in Trey Lance this year. Next up is the Detroit Lions. So, you've just got a brand new quarterback in Jared Goff, and you need to make sure that he's going to be successful. So, I've gone for LSU wide receiver Jamar Chase. And the main reason I've gone for him is because over his 2 years at LSU, 107 receptions, 2,100-ish yards, 19 yards a carry, 23 touchdowns. He's even played a snap at defense and running back. didn't do anything on him, but I feel like it's just a smart decision for them. When you look at a team that desperately needs to give their new QB weapons in order for him to be happy, I think it's an obvious choice. I really do think it's an obvious choice for them. So that's who I'm going to pick for them at number 7. At number 8, Carolina Panthers. I've gone for Florida tight end Kyle Pitts. Just because they haven't got a tight end core. They haven't got one. I think no team had fewer passing yards when targeting a tight end in 2020 than the Panthers. I think it was 190. I think it was 197, something like that. Read it the other day. And that's why I've solely picked Kyle Pitts. He's a player who will. He's sort of like, I'm not going to compare him to Gronkowski, but he sort of is that sort of player. He can block really well, but if you need him to go out and catch, he can certainly do that. And I think at Florida, this season just gone, 43 receptions, 770 yards, 12 touchdowns. For a tight end, that's really good. Really, really good. When you're facing teams like Alabama and Tennessee and Georgia, it's with them stats against them sort of teams, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer to pick a tight end who will go out and get you the catches, but also block for you as well. At number 9 is the Denver Broncos. Now, this is an organization that needs another linebacker badly. I think they've got everything else sorted. They just need to, get that defense sorted up. So I've gone for Penn State linebacker Micah Parsons. Parsons is by far the best all-around backer in this draft. He can make brilliant runs against the run. He's one of the best blitzers to come out of the draft in years, easily. I don't think I've seen anything like him since Honey Badger. Honey Badger is like, if I had to do an NFL comparison, that is my NFL comparison. 191 tackles, 18 tackles for loss, 6.5 forced fumbles and sacks in 2 seasons. It's an obvious choice, especially when you need that second linebacker on the field. So I think that's an easy decision for the Denver Broncos to make. And finally, at number 10, the Dallas Cowboys. Similar situation to the Denver Broncos. They need defensive players. That was their main problem last year. Their starting corners could possibly go in the free agency. So the Cowboys do need help. And that's why I've chosen Alabama cornerback Patrick Surtain. Um, Easily cornerback number 1 this year, and he just happens to fall in an area where you don't want to pay too much for a cornerback, but you're comfortable paying enough. A number 10 salary is enough for a cornerback, really. But like I said, this is where your defense will get a certified player. This is a player who has played in many different systems over the past years, because Alabama never do the same playbook every year, which I found amazing. I think it's an easy fit for the Dallas Cowboys. In Patrick Surtain, is a player who can fit into an organization like Dallas very easily, and possibly be a future star in that position. So that's if I had to pick a player to watch out for, that's something I'd obviously, apart from the rest, that's something you should watch out for. And that is all for my mock draft of this year. Obviously, like I said, when we come closer to it, there might be trades that go on, especially with the J.J. Watt and Deshaun Watson being available, and obviously other players. But that is my top 10. So stay tuned, because next up I've got 5 players who cannot hit the open market this season if their teams want to be Super Bowl contenders. This is Tyler Brown on Tyler Talk. Please stay tuned. So from now until March 9th, the franchise tag period is officially open. And then free agency officially begins as an outset of the new league year on March 17th. But there are some players who, for me, cannot leave their teams. They can't walk out of that door. They're just too important for their current teams. So I'll just pick 5 very quick players who everybody will know of, and why they shouldn't leave their team. So let's just get right into it. First up is Jameis Winston of the New Orleans Saints. When he came to the Saints, Sean Payton said Jameis can be a star in New Orleans, which is quite a lofty praise for him. Seeing as his time in Tampa wasn't the best. But with Drew Brees possibly stepping down, you need a player who is experienced enough in the quarterback position to make a decent run. I'm not saying they should go. I'm not saying they're going to go for Super Bowl straight off the bat, but they need someone who is comfortable in that position. Taysom Hill is obviously a player that you love to see take the ball and run, and he's a good all rounder. But you need a designated quarterback, and I think Jameis Winston is just. He was a former number 1 pick, for God's sake. There's a reason why he was a number 1 pick. So I feel like this is a time when you can really make a name for yourself. So that's why I feel like it's an important decision for Jameis Winston to stay. Next up, Shaquille Barrett of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is the player who came in. I think it's his second season at Tampa, and I think the proof's in the pudding. With his stats this season. 43 solo tackles, 8 sacks, and a very and 2 forced fumbles. One of them sacks being very important in the Super Bowl against Kyler Murray, to stop a really good drive they had going. It's clear that they need to keep these defensive players in the organization. I think I've got another one a bit further down the line, but Tampa Bay need to keep their defensive players, because it can't just leave up to a fiery offense that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have got. So I do feel like this is a player who is 1 out of 2 who I feel need to stay this season. Next up, I've got New England Patriots offensive guard Joe Thuney. So now this is going to be the opinion of a New England Patriots fan, but also the opinion of, if you're looking at football organizations in general. This guy is reliable, is rock solid, and he's clearly on the radar. I think he will be on the radar for a lot of teams, such as the Bengals, for the same reasons that I said in the last segment. And similar reasons for the Jets and the Cardinals, to protect their quarterback assets. Um, you know, but I feel like the Patriots need to think about who they're going to replace him with. They're not going to trade up in the draft, and there's not a lot of offensive linemen going in free agency this year. I think he's one of three, and one of them's already played for New England. So I don't think he will come. I don't think that person will come back. So I feel like it's just important that Bill Belichick doesn't overthink this decision and just sign him. He's and it's not like it's not like he's not it's not like he's been in the league for too long. He's only 28. Um, about to start his sixth season in the NFL. That's not old in terms of NFL standards. So I feel like it's just important that that New England and Bill Belichick do everything they can to keep this offensive guard for whoever they do bring in at quarterback for next season. Next up is, like I said, another Tampa Bay Buccaneers defender in Lavonte David. This is a player who, once again, he's done what he's needed to do in order to put Tampa Bay where they need to be. Obviously, in the linebacker position, Devin White is, the young star, who will obviously be, in the future there. But there's obviously a reason why Jason Licht has kept David for so long. I think his coverage ability is next to none. I think Jason Licht also said that 3 down linebackers like David don't grow on trees. Just ask the rest of the league, and he proved everyone right. He's a person who can make plays when it's important, and in the Super Bowl, I think especially he definitely, he definitely put them in the right position to win. So I feel like he's one of those players that needs to stay in his organization. So yeah. And last up is Dak Prescott. I think it's a very easy decision why he needs to stay. He's a player that he's like I say, he's not a player he's not a bad player. He's still got loads of years behind him, and I think he'll make a real difference. I think what was the stat I saw the other day? I think I spoke about it with a few friends as well. He is the last QB from what's it now? He's the only QB from the 2016 draft class with his original team, and that's obviously we're talking about Jared Goff, Carson Wentz, Jacoby Brissett, Paxton Lynch, Connor Cook, Cardell Jones, Cody Kessler, and I think Christian Hackenberg as well. And I think it goes further back from that. I think it's QB's drafted in the first round from 2009 to 2016, so that includes Stafford, Josh Freeman, Tim Tebow, Cam Newton, Andrew Luck, Robert Griffin III, Ryan Tannehill, EJ Manuel, Blake Bortles, Johnny Manziel, who's now playing that fan-controlled football, Winston, Mariota, and I think the list goes on for quite a bit, to be fair. So it's clearly obvious that you need a quarterback who can give you what you need. And when Dak first steps onto the scene, he's not far off that. Obviously, the only thing that's different is that his injuries. And I think most QBs have proven that injuries don't mean much to quarterbacks, especially when it's not something to do with, the weight, in your arms or anything like that. So, again, he's something who definitely needs to stay at this organization. And I think that's it. I think there's obviously a few players I didn't mention. Allison Robinson, Chicago Bears. I said in my first show that he should go for his own progression, but I wouldn't be surprised if Chicago do slap a franchise tag on him. Who else is free? Trent Williams of the 49ers. He turns 33 this year. He's absolutely, he's probably one of game's most important. He's a rock in one of the game's most important positions at left tackle. So I feel like I think he is detrimental to that team. Justin Simmons of Denver Broncos, safety. Like I said, the Denver Broncos need to up their defense. So getting rid of him is just not an option. Matt Judon of the Baltimore Ravens. Just don't let him look anywhere else. But obviously playing for John Harbaugh. And yeah, like I said, that's it for this segment of the show. Coming up next is football or soccer, like I say, wherever you're from. We're going to talk into the Celtic situation and this round of 16 Champions League, round 2. This is Tyler Brown of Tile Talk. Stay tuned for more. With Rangers looking to win their first title since 2011 under Liverpool legend Steven Gerrard, Neil Lennon of Celtic has decided to leave once again. I don't blame him, and I'll say the reasons why, but my only opinion on it is he should have waited to the end of the season. I'm really not a fan of managers who leave before the end of the season. To me, it's sort of a cowardly act in terms of just not seeing the league through. Obviously, I know that there's so much more that goes behind the scenes, but again, it's my opinion that I'm just not a fan of it. I'm not a fan. But the main story I need to get onto is who is next to take over. I have got 3 people who I've seen a lot of reports about and who I personally think will fit this squad the best. But before I go into that, I've got a little to-do list for them. Just 4 quick little points just on how I feel the next Celtic manager can bring them back up to the status that, 9 league titles in a row is obviously the way for Celtic. The first step is a mass recruitment project, and I mean a big one. When you look at this Celtic squad right now, I don't think a lot of players will be up to it. For a number of years, they could have built a team around certain individuals. I think, as it stands, I'm probably only seeing David Turnbull as the guarantee to be long term. But then again, nobody thought Kieran Tierney would move on. And then you've got players like Callum McGregor who might say, I'm sort of done with Scottish football. I might go and test myself in England, against some of the best. And I think Ryan Christie might be in there as well. And then you obviously look at other players like Scott Brown. He's not getting any younger. I love to see him play and get all scrappy, but he's when you look at all those players, they're the ones you want to build a team around. And if you can bring in a good 5 or 6 players, you're looking at a good structured squad to make a fight against Steven Gerrard, who could, in my opinion, could possibly take the league for a run for a few years. So that's my first point. Make a good, big recruitment process. Step number 2, oversee a transition from the old era to the new era. Get rid of of quadruple trebles and astonishing invincible seasons. They're now just memories. Celtic fans, staff, players, everyone like that, please get yourself in a mind frame of this is going to be, this is over. For a while, it's over. Get yourselves in, the new managers to come in and say, look, listen here, I know that we're a club that's built on a great history, but we're now looking to get back to that. And until then, I don't want anyone comparing us to the past because we are now the future. And I feel like a lot of clubs need to do that. But Celtic is obviously the story that I'm running with right now. So if you want to talk about that, please suggest it for Big Talk, which starts on the 8th of March. Next up, pick a manager who has experience. Don't pick a club legend who's going to come in, give the players all that, the big speech of, when I was here, blah, 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 blah. That time is over, I feel like it's stopped. I feel like this needs to stop at this moment in time. Bring it, obviously in the future, bring it back, in a few years' time, but at this moment in time, I feel like a lot of teams are just looking to make a splash in the media with, with an ex-player signing. Because it can either go good or bad. I don't think there's a medium. I don't think there is a medium. When you look at Mikel Arteta and Frank Lampard, that's where it went bad for the clubs. And when you look at Zidane for Real Madrid, that's where it goes good. I can make a case for Solskjaer being good as well. No, I'll put him in a good section. Like I said, there is no middle. It's not gone bad. We're second in the league right now. So yeah, I feel like that is something that needs to be done in Celtic. And last but not least, manage expectations. In Glasgow, people are very, very, very quick to make up their minds whether they like you or not. This with Celtic, this is the perfect opportunity for someone to come in, build their own squad, and when you go into a club as a new manager, sometimes you do get that bounce, and but if you don't get it out of a bunch of serial winners that come to their end, you're under pressure right away. That's what happened to Neil Lennon. He obviously thought that these players who have been playing for a while could do the job, and obviously slotting a few youngsters, that doesn't work. You need to have that chemistry and that core team ethic to bring yourself to a top tier level. Look at Rangers. When Steven Gerrard first started, he had a lot of players who were a bit older, and again, a few young players slotted in there, and not a lot of chemistry. They just sort of just went out there and played. But now, 18 points clear, and so I think it proves that that's something that needs to be happening, as needs to happen. And like I said, you just need to manage them expectations. You need, say in the first press conference, you need to just come out and say like, hey, listen here, like, give us time. I'm not going to go for a league title straight away, but if you give me a few years to get my head down and bring the right players in, I could do that. So then next is obviously the question of who would you bring in, Tyler? Who would you bring in to take the reins of the great Celtic football team? Three people I've just highlighted, very quickly. Three people. One of them is not Rafa Benitez. I think I have it on good authority that he wants to play in Europe. He wants to manage in Europe. Sorry. I think that's someone who definitely will not come to this club. Like I said, he wants to be managing Europe. So that's obviously a place he would not like to go to. So my first choice, and I think is one of the fans' favourites, especially, is former Bournemouth boss Eddie Howe. One of the main reasons is you need someone who is young, ambitious, and has a good record at a previous club. Eddie Howe is all of them. 8 years at Dean's Court and got them to the Premier League, and he contested against a lot of teams. Obviously, I think it was once he left Bournemouth is where they obviously went on downward spiral. But I feel like once, when he was there, he definitely put up a good contest for them. A second reason is obviously I don't really want to put this too much out there, but a financial reason is the fact that he is currently a free agent. When you look at other managers, like I'm going to go on to one, my final choice in a second, you do have to go through a lot in terms of financials. Obviously going through legal things and, having to pay a manager to leave their club and the club itself for that manager to leave that club. I feel like that's not the situation Celtic want to get themselves into. They need someone who is currently available to save as much money to get that mass recruitment project going, like I said in the to-do list. And like I said, he's a person who is known for bringing teams back, back to a level of, back to a certain level where the fans will be happy with. And I feel like he's someone who can, I think, as Bournemouth manager, he was pretty honest. Like I said, someone who can manage expectations. He'll be honest with you and say, we're not there yet. We need maybe X amount of players and X amount of time to do something. But I feel like he's the perfect fit for a Celtic club. Next up, people might look at this one a bit weirdly, but Frank Lampard, for two reasons. If you're looking to manage expectations, at a club. Frank Lampard versus Steven Gerrard, Celtic versus Rangers. If that won't get the players pumped up on a old derby day, what won't? Obviously Celtic versus Rangers is big enough for it, but imagine the fact of Gerrard versus Lampard as on top of that. Because you obviously need a manager who you want to play for. So Lampard, obviously, on top of being an honest, an honest good manager, the person who took Derby to the Premier League, and then took Chelsea to a decent form when he was, at Chelsea. My opinion is that he shouldn't have left Chelsea, but you may see him move to Glasgow as an ideal way to add silverware to his CV. Brendan Rodgers did the same at Celtic. And like I said, locking horns with Steven Gerrard would be a nice bonus on top of that. Finally, I've got this one's a bit controversial, but like I said, it's one of those where it's so bonkers it becomes plausible. Steve Clarke, the Scotland national manager who took his national team to their first major tournament qualifications in years. I don't even know when the last time they were in one. But it's the kind of Scottish football, like I say, it's kind of the Scottish football story that's so bonkers it becomes plausible. It would be a huge shock to see him walk away from the national stage, given what's coming this year. But you could see something like what Louis van Gaal did when he came to United. He did the World Cup, and then obviously after he did his job there, he then went on. But on the other hand, the chance to manage Celtic doesn't present itself more than once for most managers. So, it's sort of a case of does he want to be in the national rink forever, or does he want to go and bring his expansive attacking style to Celtic? But it's one of the it's one of those that it will either happen or it's just too bonkers to happen. In terms of the Scottish team taking the Scottish side's national manager. And that is all on this segment. Next up, we're going to go into the second half of the round of 16 Champions League first legs. This is Tyler Brown of Tyler Talk. Stay tuned for more. Following last week's segment on the round of 16 draw of the Champions League first legs, I thought we'd go to the other side of the games and starting off with Atletico Madrid versus Chelsea. Now, as always, this game is predicted to be a very, very, very tight contest, but the only thing that separated these two sides was an 80th minute overhead kick goal from Olivier Giroud of all people. Yes, it was awarded due to VAR after 3 minutes of debating whether it came off Mason Mount or Mario Hermoso, but they were awarded the goal eventually. And this game, Atletico shouldn't take anything negative away from this game. They played perfectly throughout the game, and then you got to also think that even though it was their home leg, it wasn't at their home game due to COVID restrictions on arrivals from Britain to control obviously the virus. But Thomas Tuchel was facing his toughest test since joining Chelsea. But obviously keeping his lid on Luis Suarez while controlling the possession throughout the game, Atletico didn't really manage a shot on target, as Chelsea put themselves in a very good position to reach the next leg of the quarterfinals. Unfortunately, Tuchel will be without Mason Mount and Jorginho in the second leg. After they've had too many bookings. But like I said, Atletico Madrid have nothing to worry about as they are going to go to a stadium they're familiar with and with a striker like Luis Suarez who will easily be able to get goals if the opportunity arises. Next up, we saw Lazio take on Bayern Munich, and with goals from Robert Lewandowski, Jamal Musiala, and Leroy Sané, Bayern Munich really closed in on the last eight. This is a Bayern Munich side who has scored in their last 19 Champions League matches, with Lewandowski scoring his 72nd Champions League goal. Bayern Munich are obviously a very big powerhouse in their recent years, and I'm not really inspired by the score, but Lazio still have a chance in this. Obviously, 3 goals is a lot to get away, but when you go into Bayern Munich, anything can happen. Next up, we saw Borussia Mönchengladbach take on Manchester City, and just like they have been in the Premier League, Manchester City look unstoppable. Yes, with their innovative fluid form of attacking, which is underpinned by a defence that is almost impregnable, goals from Gabriel Jesus and Ilkay Gundogan proved to take the better of this fallen side. And like I'm going to say in the future, Man City have yet to get past the quarter-final stage of the Champions League, but with the form they're in today, I don't see why they cannot go further this season. And finally, we saw Atalanta take on Real Madrid. Yes, with unfortunately for a red card for Atalanta of Remo Freuler, Ferland Mendy was able to slot the ball past the goalkeeper in the 86th minute. Now, this is a perfect opportunity for Real Madrid to get over their current squad problems for the transfer market to continue their Champions League winning form. And that concludes my Champions League talk until the next legs. Next up, we're going to go into NBA right now with the controversy over the picks for this year's NBA All-Star Game. This is Tyler Brown on Tyler Talk. Please stay tuned for more. This year's NBA All-Star Game squads have now been set. Reserves were revealed on Tuesday night on TNT, whilst the starters were announced last week. As always, 12 players from each conference were selected, so let's take a look at the squads for this year. Representing Team LeBron on the Western Conference is LeBron James, followed by Stephen Curry, Luka, Jovic and Kawhi Leonard, with their reserves being Devin Booker replacing Anthony Davis due to injury, Paul George, Rudy Gobert, Damian Lillard, Donovan Mitchell, Chris Paul and Zion Williamson. Then over on Team Durant for the Eastern Conference, we have of course Kevin Durant, followed by Bradley Beal, Joe Embiid, Giannis and Kyrie Irving, with their reserves being Jaylen Brown, James Harden, Zach LaVine, Julius Randle, Ben Simmons, Jason Tatum and Nikola Vucevic. Now you're probably thinking, where's Trae Young? Where's DeMar DeRozan? Where's Chris Middleton? Where's Domantas Sabonis, who's been a star this year? Unfortunately, these players have not been selected and are officially part of a snub team which the media and fans are currently revolting against. I mean, I completely understand. Trae Young is the first player in 30 years of the NBA to average 25 points and 9 plus assists, and he's not made the team. Same with Sabonis, he's the first player in NBA history to average 20, 10 and 5 and not make the All-Star team. On the flip side though, there's a lot of people who are actually involved in the NBA who are saying that, unfortunately, even though they've done amazing this season, who would they replace? And again, I agree with that as well, because the likes of Chris Paul, Zach LaVine, and Zion Williamson have for me outballed the likes of Trae Young and Mike Conley Jr. and De'Aaron Fox. Like I said, this is nothing to take away from the players who have been snubbed than their performances. It's just for me, when you think of the All-Star Game, they're the names that you want to see on the list. And that is all we have for today's show. Don't forget, on the 8th of March, Big Talk with Tyler Brown comes to your screens. Now, the only way that I know what you want to talk about is if you comment and message me on Instagram. The following subjects that are currently topping the list are currently the best Premier League team of all time, are sports documentaries good or bad for the subject, will Arsenal ever be a top flight team again, and what will need be the next big thing in the NFL. And like I said, the only way I will know what you guys want to hear is if you comment and message me on my Instagram. And like I said, that is all we've got time for today. Thank you for listening once again. Like I said, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more videos coming in the future. And like I said, don't forget to follow me on Instagram, TYB_talk. That's right, TYB_talk. And this has been Tyler Brown with Tyler Talk. I will see you guys next week for more.